Let's look at how to calculate mean, median, and mode for group data. Sometimes you're going to have to figure out the frequency yourself by tallying them in a tally chart. So there'd be a tally column here where you'd count up the frequency. But in this question, you're already given the frequency. That is, in the intervals 0 to 1, there's 64, in 1 to 2, there's 92, in 2 to 3, there's 141, 3 to 4, there's 86, 4 to 5, there's 71, 5 to 6, there's 35, and 6 to 7, there's 11 things. Let's start by finding the midpoints. What's the midpoint of 0 and 1? You just add them together, 0 plus 1, and divide by 2. You get 0.5. Same thing with the next one. The midpoint is 1 plus 2 divided by 2, which is 1.5. And you might even be able to see the midpoints just by looking at what's the middle of 2 and 3, 2.5. Or by noticing the pattern, it's just going up by 1. What's the middle of 3 and 4? 3.5. What's the middle of 4 and 5? 4.5. And so on. So we write down all the midpoints, but we never sum the midpoints. It's not useful. It doesn't provide any information we need. We do want to sum the frequency though. Let's put a little sum of the frequencies here. And let's take out our trusty calculator. 64 plus 92 plus 141 plus 86, 71 plus 35 plus 11. And you get 500. Oh, I guess I could have written it here. Sum of f equals 500. So we have 500 total things in this set. We can also figure out the cumulative frequency, and that would be useful if you were drawing a cumulative frequency histogram, which we're not, but we can calculate it. So, how do you calculate the cumulative frequency? It's just how many have you seen so far? Up until this point, just seen 64. And then to this point, I've seen 64 plus 92, which is 156. Go move the calculator over here. And so then to this point, I've seen 156 and another 141 things, which means up till here I've seen 297 things. And then the next part I've seen 297 and another 86 things, which means up to here I've seen 383 of my data. And then I've seen 383 and another 71, which means now I've seen 454 of the objects, plus another 35. Till here I've seen 489. And finally the last 11 takes me to 500. So again, you could write the sum, but it's the same sum. And just remind yourself, it's sort of like a check. Yeah, I got 500. In this column, we calculate the frequency times the midpoint. That is, we want to multiply. It's like as if there are 64 of these things. We're going to count each of them as 0.5. It's like you have 64 0.5s. Let's move that back over here. What's 64 times 0.5? 32. So we have 32 here. Now let's total up. We have 156. Count each of these 1 to 2s as 1.5s. So we have 156 times 1.5. That's 234. Next, we have 297, and they each come in at 2.5, which is 742.5. We have, oh, I'm doing this wrong. I used the cumulative frequency, a common mistake. Like I'll keep going though, instead of restarting the video. A common mistake. What did I do wrong here? It's a classic mistake, so worth showing. I need this cumulative frequency column, but not for calculating f times n. Maybe it would be helpful if I circled the columns I'm multiplying. I'm supposed to multiply this times this. So 64 times 0.5, that was 32. Not this column. I have 92 of these things. What's 92 times 1.5? 138. Alright, now we're on the right track. What's 141 times 2.5? 352.5. Alright, what's 86? These things are 86 of them, and they each count for 3.5. Oh, 3.5 times 86, and I get 301. 71 times 4.5. I have 71 of the 4.5 things. That's 319.5. I have 35 of the 5.5s. That's 192 0.5. And finally, I have 11 6.5s, which is 71.5. So my total frequency times midpoints, I got to add all those up. What's 32 plus 138 plus 352.5 plus 301 plus 319.5 plus 192.5 plus 71.5 is 1,407. Yay! Why all that? Because when we're going to calculate the mean, all this table, well, so far, is just to calculate the mean, which is take the sum of all your frequency times your midpoints and divide by the sum of the frequencies. That is, take 1407 and divide by how many things we had? 500. And you get 2.814. And so now we know the mean. The mean in this case is 2.814. But we also want to know the median. Well, the median is just the middle number, and we know there are 500 items, so the middle number would be adding together the 250th and the 251st thing, but both of those occur in this interval here. So we say the median is 2 to 3, or if you want, we can use the midpoint, 2.5. Either one is usually acceptable as what's the median. The middle number is 2.5, or you could say the median is the interval 2 to 3. And what's the mode? That would be the interval or midpoint that comes up the most. What comes up the most here, check your frequency table and you see the thing that occurs the most is again the interval 2 to 3, or call it by its midpoint, 2.5. So we had group data and we were able to make a table, and using that table we calculated the mean, the median, and the mode. Be careful when you use this cumulative frequency column, you use it only to determine where that middle number is. I could see that I got to 250 and 251 on this interval, but it didn't come into play when I calculated FM. Be really careful about that. Even I made that mistake.